Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Critting Your Role, the actor's guide to role playing your character. I like to, or at least these first 6 episodes, I like to do something physical, I like to do something with your voice, and then I like to do something theoretical. Get a little bit of acting theory. Again, I am technically what you would call a classically trained actor to a point. I actually went to school for it. I took classes. I was instructed by an incredibly knowledgeable actor and learned a lot about the craft of acting, the actual art that is acting. And a lot of the things that I learned being an actor, I have used in other aspects of my life, in sales and management, and all these different things. These acting things come up, and in role playing, it's a direct one-to-one relationship. When you are role playing, you are acting. You are becoming an actor. So what I would like to talk about this week is kind of building on what we talked about 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, we talked about pronouns and the idea of when you are describing what your character does, instead of going, my character does this, third person perspective, go, I do this. I want this. Despite the fact it's not you personally doing it, just by changing that pronoun, it helps to get you into the mindset of the character. Today, I want to talk very, very briefly and in a very, very simplistic way, because this is actually a very complicated, this is a very complicated subject. It is a somewhat controversial subject in some acting circles, simply because of what it's become and everything like that. But I want to talk about the specific style of acting I prefer to use when I create a character. This is not the only kind of tool I have in my toolbox. I was lucky enough to take a characterization class where they taught a bunch of different ways to create characters, but this is my preferred method, and it's referred to as the system. It's based on Stanislavski's teaching. Stanislavski was a Russian playwright, and the system, when it came over to America, eventually evolved into what's now called the method, which a lot of people are familiar with because of method actors. You think method actors, oh, they're the... And I personally am not a huge fan of the method in general. I'm not a huge fan of method actors because it's gone, and this is where the controversy comes in. It's gone from a style of acting to a marketing ploy, where method actors would talk about the extreme conditions that they put themselves through to get that performance, and it's simply not necessary, and it puts their lives in danger, and it causes irreparable damage and things like that. And yeah, so I'm not a fan of method acting in general. However, the system is what method acting was based on, and I'm not going to go into the entirety of the system. But at its most basic, at its most core, the system is based on one question. How would I feel were I in that situation? And that's where the system really comes from, is when you're playing a role, you try and get yourself into the role by actually putting yourself in there in a state of mind. If I was that person, if I had been through what they had been through, how would I react? And when you do that, you can get some very, very realistic acting, and real emotions will come out and things like that. It's a very effective way. The difference between the system and the method is what can I do to put myself in that situation, and that's where you have actors who will live for 6 months on the street so that they can better play a homeless person. That's method acting. The system is more based on thinking about it, but not actually doing it, because it's dangerous and stupid in a lot of times. And you could apply this to your character. Starting off at its most basic, when your character is given a choice, and this can be any choice from whether you want to, attack with your crossbow, or cast a spell, whether you see combat going for, a bad situation, deciding whether to double down and just fight with your allies, or book it and hope that you can recover their bodies and get them resurrected. Things like this. Using the system, and that question, how would I feel in that situation? It's all based on feelings and emotion, and that's what at its core acting is raw emotion that you use to fuel decisions. To use this in conjunction with the lesson from 3 weeks ago, now you started calling your character me, I. You are your character. You are now one in the same. You are put into a situation. Now you can start asking yourself, instead of what would my character do, which places this barrier between you and your character. It places this barrier that sometimes is really hard to get past. I don't know about you guys, but I don't tend to play characters like me, because an adventurer like me would never go on adventures. I have agoraphobia. I can't leave my room. That doesn't make for a very exciting adventurer. So by getting into the mind of my character, I will take certain things into account. I will take the history of the character before the campaign, which you can do. You can decide not to. It's entirely up to you. I'm a big fan of backstories, so I'll go, well, these are the things that happened to me before, and they changed my worldview this way. So this is what's going to happen. However, that's technically kind of an advanced technique. So all I really want you guys to try doing with this little piece of advice is, in a situation where your character is given a choice, doesn't matter what the choice is, whether it's your dungeon master describes a room and goes, okay, what do you guys want to do? Or it's your turn in combat and he goes, okay, it's your turn, what do you want to do? Sit down and think, what would I do if I was in that situation? What would I do? How would I feel if I was in that situation, and how would that change my actions? This is actually, as simple as it sounds, it's an incredibly difficult thing for seasoned actors to get used to. Because eventually you want to get to the point where when you say, what would I do in that situation, the I you are referring to is the character you are becoming, not the I that you are, and that gets all confusing and everything. But to start you off easy, just sit there and try and place yourself mentally in the situation. It helps if you have a dungeon master who describes things really well. Feel free to ask more questions of your dungeon master to put you into the situation, so that you can go, what would I do in this situation? If I was in this situation, how would I feel? And how would those feelings change the actions I want to take? Dungeon Masters, if you want to encourage this kind of role-playing, remember that describing a room, when you enter a room, there's a lot more to it than the dimensions and the objects in the room. Give an example. If you're exploring a dungeon and you come to a door, you could go, all right, you guys turn the corner, there's a door there. It's got a lock on it. Done. The characters know what's happening. They're probably going to go, I check for traps, or I try to pick the lock, or I run into the door and try and break it down, you know, depending on how many barbarians are in the party. Or you could do it this way. As you turn the corner, the hallway abruptly stops with a wall of old wood, gnarled in places. You can see the hinges themselves, made out of a metal that's almost unrecognizable, are slightly rusted and worn, showing that they've been there for a very long time. The door itself smells of old must. You can actually detect a little bit of dampness around you. You can feel the humidity in the room. As you look at the door, you notice a strange opening on it that looks like a key might be able to fit into it. And that completely changes what the characters are experiencing. The characters themselves, they understand they're in kind of a damp environment. They can smell the door. I'm a big fan of describing smells. I'm a very smell-focused person, so when people enter new areas in the games that I play, I describe what it smells like. Describe the environment. Describe what the door looks like. You know, add some defining features. There's a large knot in the door that almost makes it seem like it has one large, unblinking eye that's staring directly into your soul. You know, things like that add some ambiance. And then it makes it that much easier for the characters, or for the players, to put themselves into the characters, to take off their own experiences, put themselves into the characters and go, how would I feel in that situation? And what would that feeling make me want to do? What emotions would I have, and how would they dictate my actions? All right? So, in the comments below, give this a shot. This isn't really something you can try in public or anything like that. I mean, if you want to try role-playing a character, I used to do it all the time, just for shits and giggles. I had a barber shop that I convinced I was from Scotland once, just to practice my Scottish accent, and I told them amazing stories about, you know, living in the old country and how the weather at that point wasn't really all that different because it was always raining here. I'm like, well, in Scotland, it's always raining all the time anyway, so it kind of feels like home right now. And had a lovely conversation with a woman that had no idea that I'd never, I hadn't left the state in 10 years. So theoretically, you could do it in public, but this really is a table experience. So in the comments below, I would like you guys to let me know. Try it out. I'm not saying you need to do it for an entire game, just for one decision in one game. And it could be a combat decision, it could be a role-playing decision, it could be anything like that. Try this. Go, if I was there, if I was that character, how would I feel, and how would that direct my actions? And just do it once, and let me know how it feels, as crazy as that sounds. In the comments below, share some stories about, did it make you change your mind about what action you were going to take? Did it make you play smarter, quote unquote? Did it make you game the system less? Did you have more fun doing it? Did you find it distracting, anything like that, please put that in the comments down below. I love to hear back from you guys and hear how these tips are affecting your games and affecting your role-playing ability. Because again, the whole point of this show was to show people that if you want to have a Critical Role style game, you don't actually have to be a professional voice actor. None of these tips require a degree. None of these tips require extensive training or anything like that. They simply take a little bit of work and a little bit of focus, and they will drastically change how you approach playing a character. All right, so as always, if you want to see some more practical applications of this, feel free to I run D&D games on my YouTube channel on Tuesday nights. So twitch.tv/TrainerJody. You can go ahead and follow me there. Otherwise, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at TrainerJody. I tend to tweet about all this stuff as well. Otherwise, that's all from me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.